Actually, over the qualities and the multifaceted approach required in the 21st century education. The education was there in the past, you know that. Time immemorial, the man who came out of the caves and puts few seeds in for the agricultural purpose, whether it is in Mesopotamia or whether it is in the Mongolian side or later stages on the banks of the river Ganga. Every day what he did, his practices, his karma, his thought process, he wanted to see that it is transferred successfully to the next generation. The methods and practices prevailing about 3,000 years back, the methods and practices prevailing about 5,000 years back, maybe much more primitively. We don't have the traces in the right direction and in the right format for those era. They also did a wonderful work. That's why the caveman is not in the cave and they are in the space, or they will be traveling across the universe, or they will be traveling across multiverse in the future. We have seen the format with which education has evolved. Education wants a close contact with the followers or the clients. Pedagogy requires actually very client interaction between the teacher and the student. The transfer is not the expressions. Ultimate transfer is the knowledge to the brain. Any information will be transformed to the knowledge only if proper impetus is given to the information and proper transformation is shown to the client or the student how it can be used. So the functionalism of the knowledge or the functionalism of the information, even what you passed in the primary level, is required by the society. A man knowing a differential equation is of no use until he is able to put it for a flight dynamics or a football kicked by one of the best players and it takes a curves and then get it to the goal post, between the goal post. The ability to understand things in the right perspective has to be transferred to the student. And this effort was continuously existing all throughout the centuries, where the record of education we have. Of course, when an excellence is coming, the meanings of excellence is also a parallel entity. So, the excellence in different grades, it will percolate. And that percolation will produce different forms of education. And we have inherited some form of education in the modern way, in the modern time. But I firmly believe the education what we had in the ashrams of Sanjeevani or in the ashrams and courts of Janaka, based on the tarkas and vidarkas and the argumentative base with which they have derived, they have established the philosophy and the practices of life were of marvelous spirit and of high value and high significance even today. So those practices, the interactive mode of transfer of knowledge, was somehow inherited or rather reinvented by the Western side, and most of the universities which got established from 1850s in the United States, which believed many of the four principles of their constitution. And it believed in equal opportunity, affirmative action, and equality, and the transfer of knowledge, not just the transfer of information. We have seen the scientific and technological growth, what those countries who followed this has achieved. And India, when again turning out to 1947 independence, and its subsequent effort through the 5-year plan from a debt-ridden economy to a survival oriented economy through 5-year plans and excessive high deficit financing, which was carried out in India. But education was given of the order of 17 to 18% of the concentration of the budget. To some extent, we have done wonders actually in yielding the primary education and secondary education all across the country, from the north to south and east to the west. But the point is that today we are in a crossroad. The pattern with which we were moving in the 20th century, how far it is relevant, the pattern what is required to compete in the world, not only compete and survive, compete and lead in the world. Can it be an extension of the 20th century pattern what we had in our universities? Every university is embedded with several types of intellectuals. If they exercise intellectuals, otherwise employees. Professor employees, registrar employees, vice chancellor employees. Their functionality has been defined 50 years back or 100 years back in the Indian University Acts, which has been adopted in several ways by the University Grants Commission, except for the excellence shown by Kothari in 57 to 65 type of period. Of course, he was a creative man. He's not much, and he has written something good for the Indian education, I agree. But methods and practices employed in different domains were not absolutely catering to the needs and requirements of a growing country. We educated the masses, we transferred information to them, and in very less places we transferred knowledge. So if I get a BCom guy, he will not be a functional accountant. Probably he may be knowing some of the basic principles, or maybe knowing several principles of that, but he may not be performing as an accountant. So the education system of the past lacked the touch of knowledge getting implemented, and the education lacked the capability to transform the student to a functional engineer, except for maybe some functional politicians came out from the leading universities and enlightened, elevated or degenerated the Indian system. You can identify in 3 classes, ample number of politicians. So certain goal we have actually a manifested performance by the education system. But in science and technology, systematically we have produced the best engineers, some of the best scientists. But in science there is a big question. Engineering we have created, of course, the national pride agencies like the Nuclear Agency and the Indian Space Agency. They could do the engineering work. And many of the practices what they do, these were actually in the world. Some of them they may claim that we have modified and upgraded to a better level. But doing such things in a bigger way itself is a big success, we agree. At the same time, we missed several Nobel Prizes in this country. We missed several boats in this country. We missed several buses in the country of taking the leadership of science and technology, the principles of science which has evolved for the last 50 years. What did we do? The education was tuned heavily to the extent of accurately knowing what is actually available in the world. Education didn't have a part which is devoted, which was devoting time to the student, such a way that the student is allowed to sit and think and create something. Even today it is missing, and the situation is going back to worse. Those creative thinkers, we have to create creative thinkers. For that training is required, for that ambience is required, for that a push is required by the education, which definitely missed in 20th century, and we are missing heavily in 21st century. So the country has to have a policy, The country has to have a vision to promote such an education system, not by giving certification to engineering colleges and the other arts and science colleges, by down-sending actually a massive group which will be talking to people and have a nice thing. And most of the things what I have seen in the accreditation process, it is a mimic of XYZ, which I know very well, and I have done it, especially in the engineering side. It is massively copied or emulated. There's no point in I refraining from telling. Creativity is required in every work what you do, even in assessment also. That's why I put this point. You have accreditation system. Accreditation system itself is mimicking. So, leave alone accreditation. My point, my interest is not in controlling. My interest is liberation of the education. We want an education where students will sit and think. They need to be taught the principles. They need to be transferred with the knowledge, not the information, the way in which things are going today. And the evaluation cannot be based on the quantity of information they possess, the quantity of functionalism, the quantity of knowledge what they possess. What this India will do otherwise. Today morning, I had a talk from a guy from Boston, because it's evening for now. He wanted to chat on something, but he concluded the final sentence was, if this way things are going in India, India will be a service-oriented educational architecture. India will have service-oriented educational architecture. He is a computer scientist and he is a multiverse scientist too. He has got his footsteps in many other domains. He is a multilateral scientist. So this service-oriented architecture is a concept actually we practice in the web domain or in the IT domain, by which services we extract, use it and then dump back. So if the countries require services, I am very happy about it. 230 or $231 billion we account for the service. There is nothing wrong in a country doing service. But you cannot orient the whole country for doing service. You cannot make all the engineers to do IT work. You cannot make things repeatedly. So even our beloved Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, said, "Make in India." He has actually explicitly expressed new things also in that. Though large-scale manufacturing is the interest. But the education system, is it geared for making in India? Making in India, we require a part to be made by India too. So the education has to be functional education, and it cannot be oriented just for industry-ready substance. Actually, industry readiness is not actually getting inducted into the industry and sit right away and then do something which they were doing until yesterday. We can have the right scientists, we can have the right engineers who will be given a problem, they will think and give solution number one. This is what MIT does. They are not making a substance which can be glued to the benches of information technology. They are creating a computer scientist and they are sending it into the industry. And if you talk a problem with him, he will immediately think, he will come up with solution. Then the answer given to me by some people, we require programmers, not thinkers. It may be on the excessive side, I know. I didn't have any comments back to him. Thanks. You can actually continue to do that as long as India does not recognize what is the requirement for leadership in the world. It's not subservience and service alone. We require education to create leaders. We require education to create real scientists of the 21st century and 22nd century. In this aspect, I would like to call your attention to the multilateral education is the key to 21st century, and it is going to be the key for the rest of the history also. A person who is taught actually the mechanical engineering, he must necessarily know the information engineering too. He has to know the computer technology. He has to know a little bit of chemical technology. Otherwise, he will not be able to create micro devices, what is required for the future. And he has to know the intelligence. A chemical engineer needs to know the mechanical engineering. He has to know the better part of the computer science and engineering. So a multilateral education, okay, so multidisciplinary work is the need of the day. Many of the big things we have created machines and it will continue to do. The culture will evolve. The life will evolve across the centuries by accumulating the knowledge and the support devices like we have. Those support devices will take away the work from you, and what you have to do is those things which are not supported by the machines and systems, what we have created in the past, need to be supported by additional machines and systems and gadgets and ambience by which you will be able to survive much better. We have challenging questions. Not only challenging questions, we have actually several Damocles sword hanging on your head. First itself is the carbon threat. We cannot continue with conventional technologies and industries. It is not possible. We cannot continue with the conventional transportation systems, which gulps actually large amount of the fossil fuel and they emit NOx, different types of oxides, which is harmful to the life, which is harmful to the environment. We require more trees in and around because there is no factory I have ever established on the earth where I produce oxygen free of cost and then liberating into the air. Which government is doing that? Which government? Is it United States or is it European nations or is it Japan? Nobody is doing. I just avoided the developing nations and emerging markets because they can't do even today. They can't think of it. Even the other nations are not doing. The only service is done by my friends and my fellow beings of this world, the trees and plants. Ruthless cutting and destruction of these things has to be stopped through technology. We cannot have actually plant dependent or the bio-dependent or the bio-devastating engineering what is going on. I cannot cut wood and then clear off a forest and then make houses for that. This was primitive man. And I am not ready to blame him because he was actually paving the way for us to think. He was giving actually the edifice for us to live. So he did it. It's not my right. It's not my thought process. It is not, I am not envisaged to have the same type of thing probably if it would have been mistake what he did for me to continue forever. So education system has got several challenges. It is not the grasshopper repeat swing of the arms of the friend. You know, grasshopper sitting on the meadow, it will be going on doing like this. This is not education. Education is mainly the creative thinking and generation of knowledge. At what time the government will think about it and at least take rudimentary steps to transform the Indian education to a knowledge transfer institution. There are professors who will be claiming that we are transferring knowledge. I took such an account of an IIT once in the department. From the information what we gathered, we found that take 100 students out of this department which has gone out. How many of them have creatively contributed? Many of them, surprisingly. From 2011 to 2014, many of them joined actually soap factory too, clothes factory too, petrol factories as the CEOs or very close to CEO type of operation. And the only parameter for them, the driving parameter was the salary. There is nothing wrong in claiming high salary, I agree. But the performance was in an entirely different field. So, the drive in the industry also is required by which industry is able to recruit. Industry is able to recruit intelligent engineers, intelligent scientists, and intelligent professionals of various other things because we want to see that we are the best accountants of the world. The accounting system best done in India we want. So, we want to have the best professionals recruited and trained to the industry, not actually asking industry ready. So, the major culprit could be actually the IT, the software, even at the bachelor's and master's level. They value more certificates from the street than the fundamental education given on a computer design. We don't require any computer design. We don't require masters. I was told 3 weeks back in a meeting. No, sir, we don't require masters. We want only bachelors. Why do you want bachelors alone? Because they will be working very hard, sir, from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I said, why did you design things from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock? Sir, what happens is, most of the time, what we give to them, they will not finish it by 4 o'clock. Gentlemen, shall I ask me a question? Did your human resource design the effort required for, because I'm an effort expert and a defect expert in the software engineering. I have got 47 papers, 2 metrics used by you people in different name I know for the last 10 years. Depth of inspection and inspection performance metric. You are using those equations, I am aware of it, but I am not chasing for the patent purpose. But I am asking you, do you know the effort required for making the... No, this is actually, between the account managers and the HR. Are they experts in effort estimation? So we have a mandatory metrics, we will use it, how many people required for this, like that. Then why are they not finishing at 4 p.m.? Sir, most of the time what happens is that, we will be giving extra work by which, the project will be getting finished. I think, ethically, is it correct? Ethically, it may not be correct. This is actually accepted practice. This conversation has taken place. This is true with every company. I'm not telling that overloading of the engineers should not be done. But you cannot blame the education system and continuously damaging and inhibiting them from offering creative courses. That is the point. Creative courses will not be allowing you to sit 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock and do good work. Their problems will be solved in an excellent way, not the way in which repeatedly we solved till yesterday or today. I recollect the memory of Gauss, one of the greatest scientists whom I love, who lived actually in Germany. What did he do in the class? The teacher gave, please add numbers from 1 to 100. Everybody started adding 1 plus 2, okay, 3, 3 plus 3, 6, 6 plus 4, 10. The process went on. Gauss stood up within a minute and said, I finished. This is what we want. This is what we want. We want creativity, not only in counting from 1 to 100. We want in every aspect of life and every aspect of growth of the country. Such innovations are required. We have to train the mind for innovations. And in 21st century and 22nd century, we want actually multilateral education, multidisciplinary education. If we do have spent few minutes to introduce this system, calling for electives, right? Calling for electives and integrating with different departments, other departments. I would like to congratulate you for having taken this humble step. But you are the pioneers to implement it and transfer the integrated knowledge to the student. I am sure you are all talented, committed, and you have got a urge. And there is a surging interest in you in seeing the student performing well. So let that spirit motivate you, let that guide you, let that spirit give you the light and the return of investment, the enjoyment of having done your profession in the best way. I would like to thank the organizers of this faculty development program, specifying actually bridging the gap to CBCS BTU system and inviting me to deliver a keynote address in this aspect of touching on the education. Of course, I have not elaborated what BTU was meant out of CBCS. You will be hearing in the coming 3 or 4 days the different aspects of it. I am sure in the light of the words what I have spoken to you once again, thank you for the patient listening. Thank you very much.